The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. We're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. We know that if you have a child who's on the autism spectrum or you yourself are on the autism spectrum, that there are a lot of different things involved in that diagnosis in your day-to-day negotiation of the world. So we try to cover it all the way around the subject, what it's like to be the family, what it's like to be the siblings, how you fund important treatments, and most importantly, what works to create progress. So we talk about all those things, but this entire show is meant to be interactive. So Emily's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate in the show. While she's showing you that, I'm going to remind you that there's only one place to watch us live. There's many places to watch us recorded, as you're seeing on your screen, but there's only one place to watch us live. It's www.autism-live.com. When you go there, there is a white box, and that box is now open and active 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I guess barring any technical difficulties. And you can type whatever you'd like into that box, hit enter, and it shows up magically right here on my screen. And there is no cost for that. You don't have to register. There is no credit card. We don't even know your name, so you can do so anonymously. In fact, if there's something that you want us to get back to you about, you'll have to include information there. I can edit that out before I show it to the public. So I hope that you will take this opportunity to ask our experts questions, to suggest things that you'd like to see on the show, to have a forum in which to express what you're feeling about different things, because that's what we are here for. I always like to remind you at the top of the show that I'm not an expert in autism. I am a mom. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He is now 10 and doing really well. And I know that that's because I just happened to be at the right place at the right time and get the right information. I got incredibly lucky. And as I say on the show, I always said if I was able to help my child that I wanted to be able to pay it forward. So this is part of how I like to pay it forward, by helping you hopefully to be as lucky as you can possibly be and get the information that you need. Now that's going to mean different things to different people and different places around the world. We know that here in the United States it's a vastly different situation than for those of you in other places in the world. But hopefully together we can all share information and help point you in directions where you can get more answers and sometimes more questions. But I firmly believe that sometimes it's the question you ask that leads you to the right answers. And we do know that there are answers. For so long there weren't answers, but now we know that there is help, there is hope, and that all of our kids are able to make progress if they're given access to the right things. And that access is sometimes the maddening thing. So we talk about all of those things and answer your questions. Now I will say here at the top of the show that we have been updating you about the Terry Smith case, the horrifying details of this case as they're coming to light. And one of the things that we talked about yesterday, as they were letting us know on the news the other night that a body had been found, and we're still waiting for them to confirm that in fact that it is Terry Smith, but the assumption is there, and they have arrested someone for foul play, and it is at least in part, we believe, a family member, a 16-year-old in the family. But as if this story is not disturbing enough, and there have been many more things that have unfolded about this case, we reported to you that on the news the other night, someone who is purporting themselves to be a former teacher of his made a very incendiary comment. So we're going to be talking about that, and I know when we talk talked to you about this yesterday. An overwhelming amount of people wrote in and said that they were upset about this teacher's comments and they wanted to know what they could do about it and who to contact. So we do have some information about that because I spent the morning and I have a little bit more information about that. So we are going to get to that in just a few minutes, but we do like to start every show with something that we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to make sense of it in a way that we can apply it to our everyday lives. The jargon around autism is intensive. Boy, you need hip waders to get through it sometimes. And it can really slow you down when you're in an IEP meeting or you're meeting with an expert and you're paying by the minute to have them talk to you about your child or about yourself. You want to be able to understand. And in the beginning, I know I certainly said, could we please put all the jargon to the side and can you please speak plainly to me? Honestly, it's something that's very hard for some of our experts to do. A little later on today, we have an expert who's quite good at putting the jargon aside, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. But for a lot of them, it's a very difficult thing. And over the years, one of the things that I was told and found to be true is that if you make friends with the jargon, it speeds things up. And when time is of the essence, we all want to speed things up. You know what I always say? If we can save 5 minutes and $5, why wouldn't we, right? And I do think that that's why knowing the jargon helps us. But we can't do it all overnight. We have too many other things on our plate. So we take it one word, one phrase, one acronym at a time and try to make it accessible for ourselves. So our term today is probe. Now this is one of those really difficult terms because we've heard this in our lives over and over and over again. It has a meaning, a connotation for us, but it's a different connotation when we're talking about autism. So let's take a look at what our actual definition for probe is. Probe, a test or assessment trial that allows the determination of which skills a person already has and which he or she does not. Okay, as definitions go, this is not the most difficult, but let's take it a level down so that we really make it accessible. Our working definition is probe, testing your child out to see whether he or she already knows something or not. Now, we talk about ABA a lot on this show, but it's by no means the only thing we talk about, but we do know that ABA is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism that provides progress for all of our kids, wherever they are on the spectrum, whatever age level, and that has been scientifically demonstrated to be accurate. And so while, your child might need ABA and 5 other things, and another child only needs ABA and 2 other things, and they're different from the 5 things, we know that ABA is a solid bet for all of our kids and something that we should all be requesting. And now insurance is in a lot of states covering it. And when we use ABA, we're teaching things to a child, and we want to make sure we're setting up an environment in which when the child behaves in a certain way, the consequences for that behavior, as in the reinforcement for it, as in the reward, are going to be consistent. So if we're trying to teach a child to sit down, we're going to say something, they're going to do the behavior, and then they're going to get a reward for it, right? And we want to set that up time and time again so that the child learns, when I do this behavior, good things happen, right? But we don't know what we should be teaching sometimes. We need to kind of get an idea before we start teaching of where we have to start teaching, right? Have you ever been in the moment where you started to explain something to somebody and they say, whoa, I don't even know what you're talking about, and then you got to go back to a different point to explain it? Well, it's the same thing with teaching. We have to find the right moment to jump in, the right skill level, the right place in the behavior chain where we want to start teaching. And the way we do that is by doing a probe. Someone says, is your child able to do this? I don't know. So we do a trial where we see if the child is able to do the skill. And there are whole protocols for doing probes that, you don't just do it once because there might be other things going on. And there are different probes for different skill levels. But basically, when somebody says to you, well, we want to probe to see if your child can do X, Y, or Z, it means that they're going to do a trial. They're not going to reward or discipline the child for not being able to do it, but they're just going to test to see. This can be as simple as, I can remember when my son, I remember when they were going to start to work on expressive labels. labels. Remember that expressive is when the child is able to communicate themselves, and receptive is when they're taking it in and understanding it. But expressive labels, so could my child say what something was? And so they would take a stack of flashcards and hold them up, and there'd be like a picture of a chicken, and they'd say, what is it? And if he could say chicken, then he knew that label. They didn't need to teach that label. Now, typically, if we were teaching the label chicken, we would say, what is it? And we might prompt the child and say, it's a chicken. And then the child says chicken, and we go, yay, hooray, it's a chicken. We tickle them, we give them some sort of a reward, we hug them, or for some kids, it's a food reward or a toy reward or whatever, but yay, it's a chicken. When we're probing, we're really neutral. Sometimes it feels weird because, say, what is it, a chicken? And you want to go, yay, you knew what that one was, but we're just probing. So we might go, good, and not do a big reaction reward for it. And likewise, if we hold up the chicken and they don't know what it is, we're not going to teach it in that moment. But we just hold it up and say, what is it? And we don't say it's a chicken. The child says nothing, or they say it's a shoe, whatever. We don't say, no, it's a chicken. We're just probing to see what it is. Because when we actually teach it, we're going to set up circumstances to ensure success. So it feels a little weird when you're probing, because I know a lot of us, we want to teach in that moment, but probes need to be done in a very specific way, and we're just seeing what they know. And if they know it, great, maybe a small reaction, but not a big reaction. If they don't know it, we're not chastising them at all, and we're not taking the moment to teach it. So if somebody's working with your child and you see, and it's as a parent, it's frustrating. You're like, a teaching moment just went by. But in fact, they're just doing a probe. And you can ask, are we doing a probe? What are you probing for? Okay. And they're not going to teach in that moment. They shouldn't be teaching in that moment. Probes are very, very useful because we really want to be efficient with our time, and we don't want to take the time teaching skills that the child already knows. And when we do a probe, it really identifies where we can jump in to teach. So there we have it. There's a probe. Very, very useful thing to be able to do. Now, we always have a question of the day for you, and I'm told that you guys have already been writing in overwhelmingly on our Facebook page about this particular question. And I saved this one for Friday because I think this is a good way to start off the weekend. What do you wish you could afford? I know it's open-ended and you don't have to feel any guilt. Let's name it, because you know what they say, you have to name it to claim it. Is it that you're wishing to be able to go to Disneyland? You want that vacation for the family? Are you wishing that you could afford more ABA or any ABA? Are you wishing that you could afford to go and get a diagnosis from a third independent party? What are you wishing for? We want to know. From time to time, we talk with different organizations, charities. Of course, we have Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson join us from Autism Care and Treatment Today. And that's a wonderful organization because they give grants to families for the things that families need and ask for. But there are lots of organizations out there that do different kinds of grants. And from time to time, they ask us, what are the things that parents are asking for? What kind of support do they want? And funding is a big part of it. So I'm asking you, what do you wish you could afford? There's no wrong answer. If you say, I really need a new sofa, that's what's on your wish list and you're entitled to it, right? There is no wrong or inappropriate answer. And we're going to try to find some time later on today to check in to see what your wish lists are. But check it out to see what other people are wishing for, and feel free. It doesn't cost you anything to wish for something. I always say to my son, whenever the Powerball or the lottery is big, I don't always remember to buy a lottery ticket, but I love to dream and wish about what if I had $108 million, what would I spend it on? And I'll tell you what, it's a great way to spend a car trip, thinking about, and I would give this money to this person, and I would give this money to this organization. It puts a smile on my face. It's okay for us to dream. As autism parents and as individuals with autism, it doesn't take away our ability to dream and to wish for and work towards things. So let's dream a little today. It's Friday. It's a good good day for it. All right, we always have a topic of the week, and our topic this entire week has been success in the classroom. We have paired that with working on building cognitive skills. You guys have written in a lot of questions for us, and we've got a lot of exciting stuff that we are going to be talking about today. Some of the different things that we're going to talk about today, we always have a funding tip on Friday. I hope that we have time for that because I do want to respond right after we go to break. I'm going to come back and respond. A lot of you wrote in and said, okay, what can we do about this very inappropriate comment that this teacher of Terry Smith made? And so we're going to talk about that and the update on that. Then right after that, we're going to be joined by Dr. Adel Najdowski. That segment we refer to as Real Progress with Dr. Adel. And she's going to be answering some of your questions, talking about cognition skills. And in particular, she's going to be answering a question that a viewer wrote in about how can I help a child with teeth grinding issues. So we're going to be doing that with Dr. Adel. And then in the second hour, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox is back today to join us. He is truly an amazing individual with a great deal to tell us about research, and he's got some really exciting things to talk about, and he'll be answering your questions as well today. We're going to get through as many questions as we possibly can. So all of that and more, and your questions and comments from today, keep them coming in. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about the comment that the teacher made to the news in the Terry Smith situation. Unbelievable. So stick with us. We have an update for you after these messages.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman, Executive Director of TACA. We're gonna bake again.
All right.
It's my lovely assistant.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lucero.
We've heard so many people go, I want a decent chocolate chip cookie for my kid to eat. We've got all our dry ingredients. So I've got the flour, I've got the flaxseed meal, baking soda, baking powder, our gum, or xanthan gum.
Great.
So we're gonna get started in the mixer here. So those are dry ingredients. I do have brown sugar. We did cut this down. And the one way to do that is my favorite, and that's maple syrup. I'm using egg for this recipe, but we could use more arrowroot and also the flaxseed meal. So I'll go ahead and throw my eggs in here, which I love doing. So, and then the last thing is a shortening and gluten-free casein-free butter replacement. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in. I've let it sit out for a while so it's nice and soft. So let's go ahead and mix this thing well. These are dairy-free, soy-free, and I really like them. Again, Enjoy Life is a great product. It's also net-free. And chocolate chips are a personal thing. I won't judge you if you use the whole bag.
I would.
I know, right? So here we go. Great recipe. It's the nice consistency. Everything's ready to go, so we can enjoy our cookies here in just about 10 minutes. We want to give it a kind of like a couple inches between each cookie. You know, a lot of people are really concerned about aluminum, so what I've done is I laid down my natural brown parchment paper, and Jen's helping out putting the cookies down. So we're separating the nice baked good that's all organic from the aluminum cookie sheets. So let's go put these in. So magic oven allows me to pull the last ones out. And voila.
Yum, that's so good.
Really great cookies. I'll let you have a bite so you can do my Vanna White there too. Yeah, these taste pretty good.
Really good.
We're going to come back later after I gain 5 pounds and eat this entire tray.
For sure.
You know, more feedback is good. So if there's something you want us to convert, like another recipe or maybe a relative made, just let us know, autismlive@gmail.com. You can go to Facebook, or there's thousands of recipes on the TACA website just waiting for you to explore. You can go to TACANOW, TACANOW.org, and we'll see you next time at Autism Live.
Bye.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We've been reporting to you all week about a really horrible case. Terry Smith, known to his friends as Juju, an 11-year-old The family claims that he had autism. And I understand that there is a dispute even amongst the family about whether this diagnosis was accurate. Those of us who have children with autism understand that there are sometimes people within the family who disagree, and, it's a very volatile situation. And it was reported on the news that the family and the school district were also not in agreement about the child's diagnosis. Now, Terry went missing on Saturday night, and there were so many volunteers who went out to try to help the family to find him. And of course, we know, as we reported yesterday, that there was a break in the case. A lot is being reported about that. We have no confirmations about how they actually were able to find, but they found a body on the property, and it appears that it probably is the body of 11-year-old Terry Smith. Now, this is devastating, and a 16-year-old who has ties to the family, may have been the half-brother, has been arrested and been arrested for murder. This is devastating. This is devastating to the community. This is devastating to the family. We don't have all of the information, but in the midst of all of this, as news crews were out there and talking to different people, and they talked to the woman who was his teacher last year, who made wonderful comments about how her heart bled for the family and how hopeful they had been that they would find the body. But there was another person that they spoke to who identified herself as Jenny Smith and claimed that she had been one of his fourth grade teachers. Now, I don't have confirmation for you that Jenny Smith actually taught Terry Smith, but that was what she claimed. I do have confirmation, however, that Jenny Smith is employed by the Menifee School District. I spoke this morning to Ellen Kane, who is the principal of the South Shore Elementary School, and she did confirm that last year Jenny Smith did work at that school, South Shore Elementary School, as a third grade teacher. She declined any comment on Jenny Smith's comment and declined to comment on anything else, but she did confirm that she taught there last year in the third grade. And what we know, what Jenny Smith said, because there is video of it, and she said this to KABC. You can go to their website and you can see it for yourself. She said, quote, and I quote, "I know it's going to be a bit of a shock to people to hear this, but no, he was not autistic." And as I reported yesterday, I have no idea what led her to believe that she had the qualification to talk about diagnosis of someone who she's reporting to be her student, what qualified her to diagnose or qualified her to speak about diagnosis. But both my husband and I, when we saw it on the news, were shocked, appalled, and dismayed. And as I reported to you guys yesterday, you were also dismayed. I said, it's such an egregious, at any moment for a teacher to be talking about diagnosis and what you think a diagnosis is or is not to anyone is not appropriate, but to do it in that forum at that time while the child is missing, I am speechless at how inappropriate and unprofessional and over the line it was. And I said, and I've heard other people say this teacher should be dismissed. This is not a teacher. If you have that little understanding of what your role as a teacher is and what is appropriate and what is legal, and what is an appropriate moment and forum in which to speak this, I don't think you should be in a classroom in front of children. That is my opinion, although many of you shared that opinion and you wrote in and said, who do we talk to? What needs to be done? Because we're appalled. As a community, I think we're appalled that they felt that that was an appropriate forum. Unbelievable. In any case, I would tell you that the information that I have for you is that Steve Kennedy is listed on the website as the superintendent of schools for Menifee Schools. His email address, which Emily is going to put up for you on the screen, is skennedy@menifeeusd.org. I have written to him and asked for a comment. I've not had a response back, and I have also suggested that this teacher should not be teaching. this teacher should be fired. This is egregious. And if you share my opinion, then I invite you to also let Steve Kennedy know at skennedy@menifeeusd.org. And let me just say, for the record, that there are many fabulous teachers that are out there who are sensitive to our issues as a community, who are awesome teachers, and who understand how to purport themselves professionally. This woman clearly is not one of those people. And as a former teacher, I have no trouble saying that I do not think that she should be teaching young children. So there we have it. And I hope that if you feel like I do, that you will take the opportunity to take some action on that. All right. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, Dr. Adel Najdowski is going to be with us, and we're going to talk about creating real progress, and in particular, answering a question about what to do if your child is grinding their teeth. And again, our prayers are with the Smith family. We'll be right back. I'm Shannon Penrod, and we are here at the Gluten Free Expo. We're really excited about it. Can't wait to give you a look at all the tasty things there are to try. We are here at the Breads from Anna booth. You have been helping my family for a long time. So first of all, tell us a little bit about how this came to be.
Okay, well, I was diagnosed at age 16 with type 1 diabetes, and then in my 30s I got celiac disease, and a lot of the products that existed at that point just weren't working for me. So I made my first mix, which was gluten, soy, rice, and nut-free. And then my sister was diagnosed with celiac, and she has Hashimoto's, so she can't digest lactose, and she was allergic to corn. So I made a mix for her, and I had these 2 little mixes on my website, and then the autism community started reaching out to me for a yeast-free mix. And then my nephew was diagnosed with autism. So we have stuck to really trying to make our products as free as possible of the top 8 allergens. We're free of so many of those trigger foods that they work well for these kids. And the bean flours we use are pre-soaked, so they're easier to digest.
And it tastes good. That's the most important thing. It tastes really good.
And I truly believe there's healing that happens from the pleasure that you get from eating, and I want people to feel that they're not making a sacrifice by having to be on a special diet.
Where can people get them?
There is a store locator on our website, so you can check that out. And we encourage people to ask stores to bring it in if they have a store they like to shop at that we're not in.
We are here right now at the Bob's Red Mill Natural Foods booth. You know, you've heard me talk about them on the show before. I love them.
The 2 hot items are coconut flour and almond flour. They're just rocking because they please a lot of audiences. They've got the gluten-free. They please the paleo. They're not grain, so they can please a lot of audiences. And as far as the mixes, you know, we're always the pizza crust, the cornbread, and then our oats are still just right up there. So, and we have over 100 products now that are certified gluten-free. So we're trying to please all audiences with that.
We are here at one of the most popular booths, the Udi's booth. Tell us some of the things that might be good for a GFCF diet.
Perfect. So all of our products, with the exception of the cookies and the brownie bites, are milk-free, casein-free, and they're made in separate, dedicated facilities. So basically anything here other than cookies and brownie bites is good. For kids, the granola, because it's chocolate. And then we have things like double vanilla muffins that can double as cupcakes. And if you can do like a sugar-free frosting, milk-free frosting, then it's even better.
We are here with the author of Gluten is My and a very incendiary title.
Well, when I was diagnosed with celiac 2.5 years ago, my initial reaction was, "What? Are you serious that I can no longer eat a major food group?" It blew my mind, and everywhere I looked, I found inspirational, yay, yay, and I was like, this will not do. And I instantly started my blog, Gluten is My out of total craziness, and it developed into a book.
The subtitle of it is Rants, Recipes, and Ridiculousness for the Gluten-Free. journey. So a little bit of everything then, stories and recipes.
Yes, it's personal stories. It's a guide on how to get through this time in your life. It's also, there's information if your child is diagnosed, there's travel information, and there's also a chapter on the future of gluten-free and what it means for all of us that are suffering through a lack of donuts.
We are here at the Enjoy Life booth. Tell us about what Plentals are. We just tried it, and it rocked our world.
Well, Plentals are a lentil-based snack, and the great thing about Plentals is 3 of the 4 flavors are dairy-free. So there's no gluten, there's no casein. All of our products are gluten-free and free of the 8 common allergens, which means they're free of egg, dairy, wheat, soy, peanut, tree nut, fish, and shellfish.
But it's not the only product that you guys have. You have a wide range of products that you guys carry, right?
That's right. We make 38 different products. Again, everything that we make is certified gluten-free as well as free of the 8 common allergens. So the great thing about Enjoy Life is when you see the Enjoy Life red logo on any package, you know it's safe, and you know it's safe for everybody. And, you know, a lot of people ask us, well, how do you make it taste so good? Because if it doesn't taste great, no one cares. And so we like to tell them it's a little bit of magic, it's a whole lot of love that we're able to do this and replicate all these different flavors. So, for instance, we have a brand new line of decadent bars, which are s'mores, cinnamon bun, cherry cobbler, and chocolate sun butter. And again, all free of the 8 common allergens. The other thing with all of our products, they're all verified non-GMO. So we have the most gluten-free products that are verified non-GMO by the Non-GMO Project.
For more information about a healthy, tasty, gluten-free diet, make sure to watch our cooking segment, What's Left, co-sponsored by Taka. Welcome back to Autism Live. We wanted to take a quick moment to talk a little bit about funding because it is Funding Fridays, and we do know that this is a big part of the journey, finding the money to pay for the services that you want to do. And, you know, we've talked before, and we had Julie Cornack, a policy analyst, with us yesterday, talking about the fact that here in California, a lot of things as far as funding have shifted in the last 30 days. That this new budget, this new fiscally responsible budget, it has created a gap in services for a lot of families. And I just wanted to reiterate some of the information that Julie said yesterday, if you happen to miss it. If you're a family here in the state of California who was getting help with a deductible or a copay, and you were getting that through the regional center, your ability to do that has been either demolished or greatly hampered. But you do have recourse. You can, first of all, ask you can ask for an appeal, and you can ask for a fair hearing. There is paperwork involved in that, and it takes time. And in general, when there is any kind of question with that, in general, what we see in most of the cases, we can't promise this, that the services continue while it is being debated. So the advice that we're giving people is to make sure that you are vocal about it and say, I want to appeal this decision. Fill your paperwork out. Do it at such a rate, and I understand that, everybody needs to consider for themselves what they want to do, but the suggestion that we are making is that find out what the timeline is, how long you have to fill out the paperwork, and make sure that you're filling it out within the timeline. Just don't necessarily do it on the first day. Take as long as you have to fill out the paperwork, because again, and you want to ask questions about, while I'm appealing, will my services continue? Get a verbal agreement from your regional center representative, and if you're given 10 days to fill out those papers, take the 10 days. Make sure you get it in within the timeline. But then, a meeting will be scheduled. You'll do your appeal. That will take maybe 30 to 60 days. Do everything in slow motion as possible, because while you're doing that, others of us are going to be working on getting this overturned. We just don't want you to have an interruption in services. So you're going to have to be very mindful about, okay, if I've got 10 days, making sure it's in by the 10th day, but moving slowly. And then once you have your appeal, if your appeal does not go better, then make sure that you apply for a fair hearing, and that you keep the paper trail moving, but chugging along at the slowest possible rate that you can and be in compliance. So that is one method of, trying to extend those services. For those of you who are affected by this, and those of you who are affected by the demolition of healthy families, who find yourself in that gap, we are encouraging you to write into us at any of our email addresses or write into us on our Facebook page. Tell your story. We'd like to feature you here on the show because we're putting together stories. We really want to tell Senator Darrell Steinberg that his legacy, he has been such a champion for autism families, and his legacy of doing that is in dire, dire straits if something doesn't change. And so we want to put together a bunch of stories. We need to put a face on this. Who, they talk about, oh no, these kids will be okay, these families will be okay. We know different, but we need to let them see individual faces. And so if you are a family that is affected by those funding gaps, we want you to tell your story. I also would like to say to you that there are many other funding sources that we talk about here on the show. And as I mentioned earlier today, Autism Care and Treatment Today, ACT Today. They're a wonderful organization that gives grants 4 different times of the year to families for different things, including ABA, but including everything under the sun that a family could possibly request. They help with biomedical, and you can apply for whatever it is that you choose to. I know that they do not have enough funds to fund every single grant request that comes into them. But I know that they do a really good job of helping whoever they can and the more dire cases. If you have an immediate need, let's say that you have a child who is self-injurious or injurious to other people, they do have a way that you can apply for their SOS funds at any time during the year. United Healthcare Children's Fund also has a $5,000 grant that you can apply for one time. For other families that are in immediate need of filling the gap, there are organizations such as Lend for Health that will lend you money for health-related costs at no interest, but you do have to pay it back, as does the Jewish Free Loan Association. I can attest to the fact that the Jewish Free Loan Association gave my family a loan that was an interest-free loan when we desperately needed it. And I am not Jewish, nor is my husband. And so if you're thinking, oh, I can't apply for a loan through them because I'm not Jewish, they are there to help families, and they're not going to ask you whether you're Jewish or not. They don't care. I even disclosed to them, I said, I'm not Jewish, and I sometimes speak in such a way that people say, you must be, you're a New York Jew. No, I am not. But they said, no, we don't care about that. Bless your heart, we don't care about that. We're in the business of helping families when they have a sticky situation. So check out the Jewish Free Loan Association. Love them. But the main thing is, don't suffer in silence. Make sure that you help. What we don't want to see are families who, because of these recent legislative things, stop getting services and say that it's okay. I can't imagine any of you doing that, but put out the cry for help. We love to hear and help in any way that we can. And if nothing else, we want to feature you and get your story to those politicians so that they understand that this affects real people, real families. But let's try really hard not to let any families fall between the cracks. We can all hold hands together on this and see what we can't come up with. But you've got to let us know. We need to identify who you are in order to help you. Okay, we are going to take another break, and then do we have Dr. Najdowski with us? Currently in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism, my beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're going to take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
We are extremely grateful for the amazing job CARD has done in helping our daughter. Our daughter today, just in 4 months, I think is a totally different child than when she started with CARD. I kind of see it as, it seems like her brain in a way was asleep, and now that we've gotten so many services, we've seen her wake up.
It just has some gases.
Recovery is possible if you take the right steps, if you're willing to put in all the hard work. And 7.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's worth every little bit, and CARD's been there with us every step of the way.
I have 2 children with autism. I can't imagine a day without CARD or the therapists. They've been so instrumental in helping us with our kids and shaping their lives and helping us help them.
Thank you, Christina Big Alex.
Thank you, Jackie and Mariana.
We've tried other things before ABA, but the most beneficial thing has been ABA services, and I'd be the first person to tell any newly diagnosed family that you have to contact an ABA provider, and if you're lucky enough to have CARD, you're very blessed.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable, and recovery from autism is possible.
Welcome back to Autism Live. As promised, our very special guest here in the studio with us this morning is Dr. Adel Najdowski. We call this segment Real Progress with Dr. Adel. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. It feels like it's been a long time.
It has been a long time. We haven't been here in a very long time. That was all me.
I'm excited to be back.
I'm glad you're back, too. I'm glad to be back. And we have to start by saying that there is an open house that's coming up on July 31st at the new Thousand Oaks office. It's a center-based services location.
Yes.
But it also provides other services as well besides center-based. We should start by saying a little bit about what a center-based service is.
Okay, so basically we have a space that's large enough for us to have various treatment rooms, and we have different spaces available depending on the ages of the children. And it's kind of nice because families can come and drop off their child and have their child receive services, and then that way they can still have a job and other things, which is kind of the downside of the home-based program because it requires a parent to be home during the therapy. And another nice thing about it is that it allows us to get in there and do a lot heavier training, which could hopefully increase quality control. Because we are just down the hall. So we have all these BCBAs literally right down the hall from where the services are being provided, and anyone can step in and provide overlap training and all that kind of stuff in vivo in the moment, which is really nice.
It is.
And then also the program is being partnered with ARG, Autism Research Group. So that's kind of nice too because there's some of the top researchers in the field that are present there. and we're doing cutting-edge stuff, and we're always trying to figure out ways that will help kids learn things faster and stuff. So it's a really nice opportunity to get a child involved with both of those two things.
An amazing opportunity. So if you're in the Thousand Oaks area of California, this is an exciting opportunity, and they're going to have an open house on July 31st. It's at 5:30 p.m. And in addition to those center-based services, you're going to be doing a lot of things with problem behaviors such as pill swallowing. If there's something, a behavior that has to be targeted for a child, you'll have the opportunity to deal with it at that facility as well.
That's right. We're also offering services for feeding disorders, for pill swallowing. We're doing parent support and parent training and all sorts of various programs like that.
Okay, so an amazing new facility, Thousand Oaks. They're doing that open house on July 31st at 5:30 p.m. If you'd like to go, you do need to RSVP. You can go to centerforautism.com. Go to there's a spot on the front page that's about that changes, it rotates, or you can go to the locations tab, go to Thousand Oaks, and there'll be an opportunity for you to RSVP if you'd like to go to that event. It's also an amazing opportunity, I have to say, to go and meet and greet with people and to ask questions. There will be a wide variety of experts that are there. It's hard to get out to things, especially when you're in the early days of autism and you're at home with your kids and you're trying to figure out what to do, and it's really hard, I can attest, to get dressed and get out the door and get the child out the door. But I would encourage you, if you have questions, get to this event. It's an opportunity to meet people and ask questions.
I'm glad you said that, because Dr. Doreen Grampichet will be there, and she'll describe CARD and what we do, and then we'll have our clinical manager explain all the services that we offer, and then Jonathan Tarbox will describe the research aspect. But we also have a child who has recovered from autism who's coming, and he's going to be telling a little bit about his story.
Who's coming?
And then Ethan.
Oh, I haven't met Ethan.
Yeah, and you can tour the facility and check out all the treatment rooms, and there will be some other fun things going on, games and things like that. And then in addition to that, there's free childcare, so you can bring your child with you.
Which is crucial, right? What an opportunity. Bring your child. Your child will have really great care, people who know what they're doing. How often do we get treated to that? Free childcare of people who understand ABA principles. For no other reason, take your spouse and go to that, right?
Yes, there will be wine tasting going on and stuff.
Oh, my goodness.
It's going to be a fun event.
It's Disneyland. It sounds really exciting. I'm going to see if I can't go. This sounds like fun to me. And can I tell you how often parents, I'll meet them someplace and they'll talk about the great success that they've had with their child, and you ask about how did they get started on the path. Well, I went to this place and I spoke to Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, or I went to this event and I spoke to Dr. Doreen Grampichet, or I went to this event and I got to see Dr. Adel Najdowski talking about executive functions, and it clicked with me, and I went up to her afterwards and I asked a question. So, here's a great opportunity to do that kind of a thing and go to an event, and it's not going to cost you anything. You're going to get some good information.
Yeah, if nothing else, just for information.
Absolutely. Okay, so thank you for telling us about that. Now, we had somebody write in with a question that you said that you would love to take on. They wrote in about how could they help a child who is doing teeth grinding.
Yes, okay.
So help us out here.
So teeth grinding also has been referred to as bruxism, and sometimes it happens during the day and sometimes it happens at night. And at night, that's easy to treat because you can just get a mouth guard. Okay. So take the child to the dentist and they'll fit them for a mouth guard. It may not be that easy to go to the dentist. That's a whole nother story if your child has fears of going to the dentist. But I'm assuming probably the person who wrote in is more concerned with daytime teeth grinding, I'm guessing.
Okay, we don't know.
And in that sense, again, with any challenging behavior, you first start by figuring out the reason that the child's engaging in the behavior. So what are they getting out of it? I've looked at some of the research on this, and surprisingly, some kids do it for attention. You would think it would be one of those things that you would just do because it's like automatically reinforcing.
Right.
And it's a sensory thing or whatever. But there has been some research showing that some kids have done it for attention, and they've literally gotten rid of it by teaching that child an alternative response where they ask for attention.
Okay, now this is shocking to me because I would think that the teeth grinding, we're always saying that for every behavior there's a function, and it's important to not assume, and yet I always do assume.
So they performed an experimental functional analysis, which is a functional behavioral assessment, and it's this type where you can really tell for sure the reason why the child's doing it. And they compared different conditions. In one, they gave the child attention every time they engaged in teeth grinding. In another, they allowed them to escape from things every time they engaged in teeth grinding. In another, they gave them access to a toy or some sort of tangible every time they engaged in teeth grinding. And in another, they just did nothing to see if the child would do it when nothing was happening. And that would be more of the sensory, right? Like, if nothing's going on, they should be doing it. And then maybe even doing it in all the other situations too, let's say, maybe.
Okay.
And what they found was it wasn't what you would think, and it was happening at really, really high rates in the attention. So they treated it very easily. But I've also worked on this myself with children, and we published a study, I think in 2009, and basically this child, we hypothesized, was doing it more for the sensory automatic reinforcement.
Okay.
And we basically used a redirection.
Okay.
So we said to the child, like, say ah, or say something else, and then when they would, and then also that was paired with like just a little thing like this on the lip, and then we actually found that it decreased. But the good part was that we were able to actually also like fade that out, so it wasn't like we were doing that forever.
Okay, so really important again that we go back to this idea of you have to know what the function of the behavior is.
Yeah.
Because if you just assumed that it was a behavior that was happening seeking attention and tried to redirect and teach a different way to get attention, and it really was happening because they liked the sensation of it, it wouldn't be successful.
Right.
And likewise, if you did the redirection of doing this and saying ah, so that they were doing something else because they liked the sensation of it, and it was because they were seeking attention, it would get worse, would it not?
That's right, yeah.
So, so important that before we rush in and say, okay, this is the answer to this, we have to know what the function of the behavior is.
But if you think about it, the thing that we did with telling the child to say something was an incompatible behavior with teeth grinding. So you can't be speaking and teeth grinding really at the same time.
Yeah.
So another treatment that people might want to try is gum chewing. And I know a lot of parents don't really want their kids chewing gum. It seems like an adult behavior or whatever. But I think I'd rather maybe have my child chewing gum than engaging in teeth grinding. And if you think about it, that gives them some sort of oral stimulation, something else to do with their teeth besides grinding them.
Yeah.
Also, another option would be just a simple procedure where for a certain period of time when they go without teeth grinding, you give them a reinforcer.
Okay.
So you might want to start by kind of measuring what's the duration between teeth grinding. So do they do it every 5 minutes or do they do it every 10 seconds? And then whatever that is, then base your interval off that. So if they're doing it every minute, let's say, then maybe every 45 seconds, if they're not doing it, you give them a reinforcer. So that way you're hopefully setting it up for success.
Okay.
If they're literally doing it every 10 seconds, then you're going to want to go with more like 6 seconds or something. And I know that sounds crazy that you're giving someone a reinforcer every 6 seconds, but you will thin that schedule out so it's not going to be like that forever. And eventually it'll get to naturalistic levels.
Okay. Now, if a child is really young, and we're talking about this gum chewing, I think parents, even more than the issue of, I don't want a child chewing gum, for some kids, it's a choking hazard.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the chew fidgets and the chew necklaces, the jewelry and that kind of thing, would that have the potential?
Yeah, I would go with whatever's age appropriate. Okay. So when they're young toddlers, they're going to be using those teether things anyways.
Okay.
So that would be a good one.
Okay.
But when they're like 4, they shouldn't be using stuff like that anymore. And it seems kind of weird to have a 4-year-old chew gum, but not really. Okay. My daughter's 4, and she will do anything to chew gum. She loves it. Okay. I don't really want her to, but I do let her do it now and then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. We started Jem chewing gum because we were hoping it was going to help him a little bit with some of his, articulations.
Yeah.
And because it firms up muscles. It's a lot of chewing that happens. And it was hilarious. It was high comedy and he was probably 6 or 7 when we started him, and he would be chewing and he didn't really, I think because some of the muscles weren't quite there, it would fall out of his mouth and fall on his shirt, and he'd go, where did it go? Where did it go? I lost it. It was a little tragic.
My main problem is trying to get my daughter not to swallow it, which I've successfully taught her to do now. But that's always one of the concerns too, is that they're going to swallow it.
Yeah.
So.
But Jem had a problem keeping it in his mouth, and he doesn't like the flavors of gum, so it's not a big rewarding thing for him.
Too bad.
Fortunately. Right. Okay, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to ask Dr. Najdowski to tell us about a new review that has come out of Skills, so stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides programs to educate students, parents, and professionals proven techniques using applied behavior analysis. Access online video lessons with IBT e-learning. Get one-on-one personalized instruction with IBT face-to-face training. Acquire professional guidance with IBT BCBA supervision. Develop professional growth with IBT continuing education courses. Get access to IBT services today. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest here in the studio with us right now is Dr. Adel Najdowski. And you were very involved in the creation of Skills, a product that we talk about a lot here on the show that I use at home and love. And I wax poetic about it probably too much because I do love it.
I like that phrase.
I do. I wax poetic about it. But in any case, a recent review came out. It's not just me that's in love with Skills. A review came out about Skills. Tell us where it is and what they had to say about Skills.
Yeah, this is extremely exciting for us because it came out in a scientific journal. And the journal is called Behavior Analysis and Practice. And their main mission is to provide very useful information for people that are practitioners.
Okay.
So they don't want to do like analog science or, you know, science that people just do because it's fun. They want to know about stuff that's practical that you can use in everyday life from the results that you find.
So this isn't just a mommy review saying, you know, a mom blogger who goes, this is really cool and I'm using it every day.
Right.
These are some heavy hitters here.
Right. And this journal hasn't done this in the past, but is starting a new segment or column or whatever you want to call it. And it's a product review section of the journal. So each volume and issue will have one of those.
Okay.
And so for the very first one they ever wrote, they wanted to review Skills. So I thought that was a huge honor that they chose Skills as their very first product review. It was reviewed by Dr. Josh Pritchard, who is from the Florida Institute of Technology. And he gave it 4 out of 5 stars, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
Especially because you would anticipate them to be extremely critical, given that it's a scientific, peer-reviewed kind of a journal.
Yes.
Right. And for the most part, the things he said about it were very positive. He felt that if anything could improve, it would just be user-friendliness of certain features of the navigation. But then he said eventually he also got used to it, and then once he got used to it, it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
He was very impressed with the comprehensiveness of the curriculum, and his advice to people was if you're a practitioner and you're looking to deliver ABA-based services, get it, check it out, because it's going to save you lots of time, and with just a few clicks you're going to have lessons and be able to get started, and not have to worry about, you know, teaching sequence and age appropriateness and all of these other things that you would normally have to research.
Because the system takes care of it for you.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why I do wax poetic about it, because as a parent, I have no reference for all of that. None whatsoever. I would have to rely on experts to do a great deal of work and pay them a great deal of time and money to have gotten that information for me.
Right.
But I can immediately, after I've done the assessment for my child and put in the information about my child, know whether a skill is appropriate for my child's age level and appropriate for my child's skill level.
Yeah.
And I always talk about the fact that not only do I use it when I'm teaching at home, but I use it to compare my child's IEP to see if what has been recommended in the IEP is actually child-specific to my child and appropriate.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's empowering. That's the word that I use a lot. It's empowering. Well, I'm thrilled that that we have some heavy hitter people who have letters after their names agreeing with me and saying that this is an awesome product.
Yeah.
And I would encourage parents, but also practitioners, to check out the article. Where can people read it?
It is something they can get online. I cannot remember the exact website, but if you go to the ABAI website, which is the Association for Behavior Analysis International, and I think the website for that is abaiinternational.org.
Okay.
And there, or if you even just do a Google search, Behavior Analysis and Practice, that's the name of the journal, you'll go there, because that's actually the organization that houses the journal anyways.
Okay.
So they don't really have a separate website for it. But you do kind of have to search around a little bit to get access to the article itself.
Okay.
If you don't want to have to search around, another option would be to go to the CARD website and then click on blog and search down. It might not be the latest blog, but it's definitely within the last couple of blogs.
Okay.
And you'll see a link there of how you can get the article as well.
Okay. All right, great. So really impressive. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
It is very exciting. We thank you for being here with us today, and we look forward to seeing. We are not here next Friday with you, but the Friday afterward.
Okay.
So it's summer, and Friday is a very busy day. We're filming next Friday, out and about. So in any case, we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to take a break. And as we take this break, we're going to go to the A Word. This is the ongoing documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He's about a year into his therapy at this point, and his parents have a rare opportunity to meet a young man who had autism as a child but has subsequently recovered. It's a very emotional meeting, especially between the young man and the dad. Take a look. This is the A Word.
Nick was diagnosed with autism in 1994 at the age of 4. He received 5 years of therapy from CARD that eventually faded out. Nick recovered from autism in 2001.
The song I'm about to perform is by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. CARD helped many patients, myself, to recover to this level now.
Cheryl and Mike's son, Jack Riley, was diagnosed with autism in 2010 at age 2. He's been receiving therapy from CARD for a year and a half. Today, Cheryl, Mike, and Nick meet for the first time.
I'm curious as to what you remember.
I certainly remember pretty long sessions, and I'd be frustrated if I would make mistakes. I mean, I remember one time I had to count a row of 6 blocks, kept messing up. That was really difficult.
No.
I need it. I need it.
At what point do you recall hearing the word autism?
I was able to figure out what I was going through without anybody having to tell me.
Our concern is if it's a big secret to hide. I don't know what we can say.
No one ever told you, you just discerned
But
it?
the reason I'm comfortable talking about this is because I felt it. In therapy, I certainly began questioning why people reacted as they did based on what I said and did. Particularly because of difficulties I was facing in school. It got to a point where I wanted to understand why it was. So I entered while still going through therapy and still showing significant signs of the mental condition. Even after I'd improved to a significant extent, there were those who still gave me a hard time for it.
Did it hurt your feelings when you were in school? The way that kids...
Oh, absolutely, because it was bullying. It was harassment.
That scares us.
They called me names. I was basically, when it came to sports and PE, I was usually the last kid chosen.
Did teachers intervene?
Not really. I mean, it was just so hard for me to talk about it because of how ashamed I felt. Certainly the first few years of elementary school, I don't think I really had the most supportive teachers. I mean, I remember my mom told me how my first grade teacher once said that she thought I had no chance of getting anywhere. And going away to college and out of state and being the only person from my old school district has made a difference. It's just really improved my social life tremendously because I got to be me. Because with nobody knowing about my past, I wasn't faced with these misconceptions and prejudgments.
Do you tell people, new people that you meet?
No, that's not the first thing I will ever
No, I would
tell
hope it's not the
and
first
you
thing.
know what? In most cases, I never do, because while it's a part of my past, it doesn't define who I am. I mean, just thinking back to the very beginning, pretty much each episode, autism, what, not who.
I want to tell you right now, though, I'm so impressed with you.
Likewise.
I want you to know that.
Likewise. I mean, your son really inspires me just as much because I'll tell you anytime.
I adore him, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't challenging.
I mean,
it's cost me the stuff that like career things, goals. I don't care about those anymore. I work at night. I'm tending bar. Not that I'm too good for that. I'm just saying that's what I do. I want him to have a chance.
Right.
And you inspire me now.
Thank you. The feeling goes both ways. The feeling's mutual.
Before you leave today, we would like you to meet Jack.
I would love to.
This is Nick. Hi, Nick.
Hey, Jack Riley.
All right, should we try this? I'm gonna try to take a picture of all of you. 1, 2, and 3.
Jack Riley, you rock.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and I'm here at the Taka Family Picnic with my family. Yay! There are so many fun things to do and see here, and we're going to get started right now. We're going to go get our picture taken. Stick with us. Okay, so we just got our family photo done. Let's go see what else they have fun to do here at the Taka Family Fun Picnic. Come on, you guys, let's go. You said you watch our little show? Yeah. We love you, Diane. We are here with Kristen Selby Gonzalez, and you are a mom. You're a parent of a child on the spectrum?
Absolutely. He was diagnosed when he was 2 years, 4 months, and he's 11 now.
And how's he doing?
He's doing awesome. We were told he was never going to look, he was never going to talk, that the best thing we could do was get him to use a spoon and a fork and to get him potty trained by the time he was 8, because the doctors told us he'd be in a group home. And today he's looking, he's talking more, he's riding a bike. Yes, he's potty trained. He does gymnastics twice a week. He's learning to read and write, and the sky's really the limit for him.
Now, I understand that you also work with a foundation that helps and supports Taka.
I was appointed as president and chairman of a nonprofit called the Autism Hope Alliance.
So cool, and it all sprang from being a mom.
It all sprang from my little boy. I mean, honestly, he is the voice. I just kind of get to do the legwork, but it's him pushing me. I had 3 miscarriages before him. He is my only child, and to me, this is like what I'm here to do right now. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, and it's the greatest reward when I have another mom come up to me who just recently got diagnosed and says, I need help. And so us veterans out here, that's what we call ourselves. We've been here for a while, right? Our job is to help those other moms understand they don't have to reinvent the wheel. The path has already been laid, and all they have to do is kind of follow the path and see what makes sense for them.
Amen, sister. Amen. Right now, I am with the Riley family, a wonderful Taka proud family. We're with the mom, Holly, daughter, Fiona, and Quinn, who's down there. Tell us what Taka means to you.
I've been helped so much by other parents who came before us with our journey with autism, and we've been so fortunate that Quinn has done so well. He's considered recovered from autism. We're really happy to be able to volunteer and help out because, you know, we've gotten so much from the other families.
And I want to know, as a sibling, is this a really fun event for you?
Oh my gosh, it is so fun. Plus the samples. It's not usual that I have all this food that I can eat this and I can eat this.
Do you keep the whole family GFCF?
Yeah, it's important to know Fiona is gluten-free, casein-free. We're also soy-free. Quinn can't do corn, so we've got lots of foods we're always avoiding, and it's really nice to be able to be in a place where we can just sample a lot of things, and you know, you still have to be careful.
Can I go play now, please?
I love that, please. Tell me one thing. What's your favorite thing at this picnic?
The jousting and the bounce house, period.
Good answer. All right, go have fun and play.
My name is Summer Dabbs. I'm here from Fullerton Cares, and we are at the Taka Family Picnic event today. Fullerton Cares is an autism coalition, and we strive to bring awareness, acceptance, and action, meaning fundraising, to all resources for autism, especially the Fullerton School District autism programs. We're here to provide the food for all the guests at the picnic. We have GFCF options for those who require that diet, and we also have killer epic burritos for everyone else. We are also offering frozen bananas, chocolate-covered bananas that are absolutely fabulous. So we're here to help out Taka and donate some food for the cause.
What I'm here with is Beauty Society. We've got the families thinking about what they're putting in their bodies, but we also need to think about what we're putting on our skin. And what's really something is there's a lot of chemicals, a lot of toxins out there that we're trying to get rid of. our skin is absorbing that. So Beauty Society's here because we have a lot of things that we don't put in them. We don't put parabens, there's no sulfates, there's no perfume. It's also gluten-free. Some other things that I have, of course, is makeup, which is always fun. And I love teaching teenagers, especially kids on the spectrum, how to take care of their skin. Because what we find is a lot of the kids tend to have more acne that are on the spectrum. And I want to teach them things that they can use for the rest of their life.
Lauren Kim is here with us, and you were just telling me that you have a really nice position. Tell me what your position is.
Hi, I'm the president of Troy High School's Autism Youth Ambassadors. The AYA mission is to break down the barriers between those with autism and those without. And
you said you've been doing this for 3 years. Who started this? Whose idea was it, and why did they come up with the idea?
Two amazing people. They were the founders. Their names are Ralph and Minaj. They've come up with the idea because they were personally affected with family members who had autism. Our advisor, Mrs. Laval, she has a son with autism. They came up to her and asked to start an autism awareness club at school.
Did you get involved because friends of yours got involved, or is there autism in your family, or did you know somebody?
Well, there is autism in my life, not specifically in my family, but of course my mother's friends, sons are affected, and even my personal friends are affected at school.
One of the best things about coming to an event like this is getting to meet people that you've only talked to on Facebook or an email. And so I'm so thrilled because I just got to meet Nancy Dulai.
Hi, do you want to talk?
You want to say something to us?
I have no idea what that was, but okay.
You're a mom who has been on this journey only a short period of time, but you're already giving back. You were here today and you did face painting for all these kids. We saw all this beautiful artwork.
Did you like it?
It was gorgeous, gorgeous stuff on their face. And so you're making your way on this journey.
Yes, and Card and Skills has been a huge, and your show has been huge. And I refer everybody to them. I'm like, if, they don't know what to do, I'm like, go check this out. It's a good site. It's, lots of information. It's been great.
So nice to meet you.
Can you say bye, Shannon?
Do you blow kisses?
Can you give a kiss? She wants to kiss you. She's trying to reach over. Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're thrilled that right now, once again in the studio, we have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. So thrilled to have you back. We've been on a vacation of sorts, and so we haven't seen you in a month of Sundays, as they say.
It's great to be back.
Thrilled to have you here. You are the head of research and development here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders.
That's correct.
And you are also the director of the Autism Research Group, an amazing organization. We understand that you are a part of the open house that's happening on July 31st in the Thousand Oaks office. And we were talking just a little while ago with Dr. Adel Najdowski about some of the reasons why people should go to that open house, that they have an opportunity to see a center-based system.
That's right.
That there are also going to be services provided at that location for things like pill swallowing and feeding issues and some other challenging behaviors, but it's also the home of the Autism Research Group. And so what will you guys be focusing on for the open house that parents might want to participate in?
Right, so a variety of things. I mean, one of the things we're going to do is emphasize to parents the importance of science to ABA treatment for kids with autism, and actually just to treatment for autism in general. The vast majority of treatments out there still have no scientific research at all that's evaluated them to say that they either work or don't work. It's just kind of willy-nilly, right? It's still sort of like the Wild West. Anyone who thinks that they know something about autism can make up a treatment and sell it, and people buy it. It's scary. So science still is really the only tool that we have to really separate out what works from what doesn't work. And so that's going to be kind of a theme about what we talk about. And setting up what we're doing there in the Thousand Oaks office is pushing that forward, right? So, we have a lot of research showing that ABA works for kids with autism, but there's a lot of details that still haven't been researched, a lot of topics that still haven't been researched. And so, Autism Research Group, the mission is to do research that makes a real life difference in the everyday lives of families affected by autism, the kids themselves, but also the families in general and the family system. So one of the things we're interested in is reducing parent stress and anxiety. Basically,
Amen to that.
basically just making parents a little happier.
Yeah.
Right? Life is tough enough, right? When you aren't faced with major challenges.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when you're parenting kids with special needs, life can be even more challenging. So one of the projects that we have going on is called COPE. The acronym stands for Creating Opportunities for Parental Empowerment. And basically, it's a variety of different services that we're doing research on that are designed to empower parents to feel more in control of their lives and to give them tools that really work, not to just kind of give them a pat on the back and say, oh, you should just be happy for what you have or something like that. But actually give them new ways of thinking about the world, new ways of looking at the world that make them more powerful and more able to do what really matters to them, to take valued action in their lives with their kids.
Awesome.
So we have, we're putting together a couple different things. One is parent workshops, sort of all-day parent workshops that are going to be, delivered in different locations. We're probably going to hit San Diego, probably the Valley, probably the Conejo Valley as well. Potentially parent support groups and or sibling support groups, and there's a variety of different ways to provide these support services. And what we want to do at ARG is actually do research on them and see which format actually works the best, which gives you the best effect for the money, basically. Right? And the vast majority of this stuff is going to be funded by grants, or we're just going to self-fund it, so it'll be very affordable for parents to participate in and or free. So that's one of the areas that we're taking a look at.
Every Monday we have a stress tip because we talk about the fact that, it's just a part of this journey. And on Monday, this particular Monday, we were talking about how there are some things that we have that are guilty pleasures, and we need to find the right what's the word I'm trying to use, the right marriage between finding things to do with downtime so that we're not constantly moving on the hamster trail of stress, but finding things that actually reduce stress, because sometimes we have things that we think reduce our stress, but they don't actually. So I love the fact that you're going to be doing studies to see what actually reduces the stress for parents, because that's what we need. We need to mainline the stress relief.
That's right. And there's a common sort of misconception out there, I think, in the parenting community for kids with special needs, that either you're doing your job as a parent and it's going to be stressful and awful, or you're somehow taking a break from that where you can feel less stressed, but it's not going to help your kids as much, right? So like more time in front of the TV, more eating junk food, more substance consumption or whatever is going to make you feel better maybe in the short term, but doesn't really help your kid. Well, the approach that we're taking is different from that. It's saying, yes, you're not going to be able to escape from, the reality of what your life is and the difficulties that you're going to be faced with. There's no escape from that. That's reality. It's happening. But there are different ways of approaching it, and there are different ways of living it that allow you to take action towards what you value. And we don't have time to go into it in very much depth, but there's some very effective approaches out there that I think parents are going to find really useful.
Love it. Absolutely love it. That's very exciting news, and thank you for being at the forefront of that. We appreciate that. So again, if you want to go to that open house at the Thousand Oaks office, new facility, and it's an opportunity, as we mentioned in the last hour, that you will be there, Dr. Adel Najdowski will be there, Dr. Doreen Grandpichet will be there. That is on July 31st. It's at
Ethan's going to be there?
Ethan's going to be there, a child who recovered from autism, who's going to be telling his story. And, I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because we've been featuring all this week on the A-Word when the A-Word family gets to meet Nick Yates. And what an emotional event it is for the dad. And I remember the first time that I got to meet someone who had recovered from autism and how exciting it was to me. And it was Joe Mose, and I met and spoke with him for a very long time before I said, so what is your connection to the autism world? And he said, I had autism as a child, and then I just fell apart and cried all over him and hugged all over him and said, oh my gosh, you have to meet my husband. I can't even believe I'm so excited to meet you. because we all want to know what's possible. So what a great opportunity to meet, and he's still quite young.
Yeah, I think he's 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
He's a very, very bright kid, very articulate, and just cute as a button, too. I mean,
So,
you really enjoy hanging out with him.
You know, if there are people, when you talk about recovery from autism, and people think that you're talking about unicorns and sprinkling fairy dust and things like that, this is an opportunity for you to see what it is that we're talking about, a very exciting opportunity.
I'm sure his mom will be there, too.
Yeah, and you can talk to her and hear about that whole thing. So very, very exciting. But you do need to RSVP if you want to go to that event. And so I encourage you to go to centerforautism.com. You can click on the locations tab, go to Thousand Oaks, or I think there's also a button on the front page of the CARD website, centerforautism.com, and RSVP. And
We're going to have childcare, too, so that kind of makes a big difference, I think, for a lot of families.
And we heard in the last hour that there will also be wine.
Yes, I think there's going to be wine, cheese, maybe a popcorn machine, childcare delivered by like actual real experts. So it's going to be our therapists or volunteering or whatever to, you know, so it's your kids will be safe and well taken care of.
I said it sounds like Disneyland. I think I'm going to just come for everything else.
You really do. Should.
But in any case, you do need to RSVP, so they make sure that they have enough popcorn and enough wine and cheese and enough therapists to do the childcare. So it isn't something that you just show up to. You do need to RSVP, and that is on July 31st. Make sure you go to centerforautism.com and RSVP to that. Now, since we have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox here, we like to ask him questions, and we have a backlog of questions. So this is a kind of long question, but it was fascinating to me. How do you deal with a powerful self-stimulatory behavior that my child manages to do almost all the time? Recently, my 10-year-old likes to spit a bit of saliva and then make patterns. I tried to replace with a bowl of water and a dropper. What an awesome parent that they're thinking. Though he uses it, he still prefers his saliva. That tells us something. At first, he used to do it only on glossy surfaces, so I tried to cover them up. But now he does it almost anywhere, sometimes even on the floor or walls or on his elbows, etc. Even if I give him some tasks so that his hands are busy, you know, competing behavior, right? Even if I give him a task so that his hands are busy, such as coloring or playing with a ball, he still manages to spit and make patterns in a split second. Any tips would be great, and thank you. So what do you think, Dr. Tarbox? Where do you want to start?
Right. So I'm going to say your viewer has written in with probably one of the most challenging things to deal with, one of the most challenging behaviors to deal with in autism spectrum disorders, and that is automatically reinforced stereotypical behavior for which there's powerful, powerful reinforcement, right? That's inside the behavior. In other words, the kid just likes doing it and likes doing it a lot, and the satisfaction that the child gets from doing it doesn't decrease over time. And so we've seen this before, and it's funny, I've actually worked with a kid with this exact same behavior, which at the time I thought was pretty unique, but actually we see this. And it was extremely challenging. And I'm going to say we had, a top-of-the-line team. This is at a severe behavior unit in Kennedy Krieger in Baltimore, Maryland, part of Johns Hopkins Hospital, probably the highest quality place you can possibly send your child with a severe behavior problem. And even for that team, it was very challenging to decrease this behavior. But, your viewer's really on the right track. She's talking about competing behaviors, competing reinforcers. She's talking about identifying other activities that produce the same kind of stimulation that the kid wants, right?
The dropper with the water.
Yeah,
Let's get it some other way, more socially appropriate.
Exactly. So if he wants to play with liquid, let him play with liquid. That's fantastic.
Right.
So I would say you're on the right track, and what you need to do is increase the intensity that you do it, provide more reinforcement if it's whatever other kind of contrived reinforcement that the kid cares about, and increase the variety of alternative behaviors and alternative activities. So a bowl of water with the dropper is a great start. Now think of 6 or 8 or 10 other things that your child can do that involve manipulating fluid in some way and looking at it. So, off the top of my head, even an iPad has apps where you push the screen and it looks like you're touching water, and it ripples and goes in different ways, or different apps where you touch something and it makes like fractals and strange visual, stimuli like that. I mean, anything that you can do where you're touching it with your finger and it makes something happen visually, get a lot of it. And rotate them. Not the same thing over and over. Lots and lots of different activities. And manually prompt the child, like take their hands and help them actually do it so that they see how it works.
And then reinforce that.
And reinforce it. Yeah, hopefully it's automatically reinforcing, right? That's the assumption behind what she did, which I love, is she knew he's just going to like playing with water, right? So that's the best.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the reality is with kids who have long-standing problems with stereotypic behavior that's highly automatically reinforced, you're not going to find another thing that the kid prefers more, right?
Wow.
That's kind of the whole point, is that's his favorite thing to do.
Right.
So you're not going to find something else he likes more, so you're going to have to find as many different things that he likes as much as possible and provide those continuously.
Okay.
And at the same time, try to limit the opportunity like she has been. She's doing everything right. It's just a matter probably of doing it more, doing it with more variety, doing it more frequently. Limit the opportunity to play with the saliva.
I was going to ask you about
if
that.
he spits, if you could wipe it up and make it disappear as fast as possible, that would be great. I know it's kind of gross and it's high effort task, right? You might have to literally be standing over him constantly with a towel. But if you can make the spit disappear as soon as he spits it, that's removing the reinforcer for the behavior of spitting, right? Because the reinforcer is, or the reward or the motivation, is for him to see the spit and to get to touch it. So if you remove it immediately, then he doesn't get to touch it, and he doesn't really even get to see it. So give him lots of alternative behaviors, lots and lots of variety, lots of fun, lots of reinforcement, and try to block the opportunity to play with his saliva at all.
Okay. And I immediately was thinking about, I think they call them Buddha boards. Have you seen these? They're stones, and they're supposed to be so that you can practice writing Chinese characters, and you dip a paintbrush in water or some kind of liquid, and then you draw on the board, and after a minute, it vanishes.
It disappears. Yeah, that's another great idea.
So maybe, you know, that's the thing.
There's all kinds of toys that are made even for babies that, you know, they're filled with gel of different colors or fluids of different colors, and you touch it and it moves. Anything like that. Here's another general point, though, with long-standing automatically reinforced stereotypy, kids with autism is even if you're doing everything right, you're not going to see a difference overnight. You might not even see a difference in the first week. Even if you're doing everything right, it could take a year to build up enough other habits for the child to really stay busy with other behaviors. Right? I mean, if this is his favorite thing, you got to think of it almost as his favorite hobby or obsession. He's been doing maybe for years. It's going to take a long time. It's different from other behavior problems. Like if you're tantruming because you want candy, if you stop getting candy every time you throw a tantrum, that tantrum will go away. If that's done consistently, it'll go away quickly. You can see a difference in one day, right? A behavior problem like this, where it's automatically reinforced, can take a long time.
Okay, so patience, key.
Patience, persistence.
Now, what do you think about when, you know, we've had Temple Grandin on the show a couple of different times, and she has a slightly different take on things that are these automatically reinforcing things, but it may be that it's a different kind of behavior. She talks about when she was a child, she had a plate on her bed, at the foot of her bed, and she liked to spin it for hours, and she also liked to take handfuls of sand and let them fall between her fingers. And I said, Temple, what was the big deal? And she said, she said, still to this day, I can sit and spin something like that. And she said the way the light touched it when I did it at different speeds was fascinating. And that she would manipulate the speed of the sand, and it was just fascinating to her, and she could concentrate on it. It was just a great fun to her and very stress relieving. And I said, okay, so what did your mom do? And she said, my mom said, you have 1 hour a day that you can go do that, and then you cannot do it any other time.
Right, absolutely.
Are you good then with setting a certain amount of time for activities like that, that you say, this is the time period that you have for that, and then there is no other. Now, Temple understood rules. She was so ingrained to understand rules that she understood when that rule was set, that meant she couldn't. And she could stop herself from doing that. I don't know, with some children, you could say that too, and they wouldn't, there's a compulsion. They wouldn't be able to stop themselves.
Right. Well, they're not going to stop themselves just because you say the rule. No one is ever going to stop doing something they like just because someone tells them don't do that anymore. It always has to be backed up with consequences that matter. Okay? So I'm sure for Temple, when her mom said, well, I don't know actually, but I'm assuming when her mom said, here, look, here's your hour a day that you can do that, there was some consequence. If she tried to do it outside of the hour of the day, the mom probably stopped her, right? And when she did try to do it during that hour, nobody stopped her. So a real clear difference in consequences. Do the behavior in the socially appropriate setting, and you get to do it some more. Do the behavior in a different setting that's not appropriate or that's been outlawed or whatever, and you don't get to do it. You get blocked or you get stopped or whatever. But yeah, that's absolutely fine. And you don't actually have to be able to understand rules. You don't have to have the language to be able to learn to do behaviors in one setting and not in a different setting.
Right.
What you have to have is real clear signals about what setting is appropriate and real clear consistent consequences. So we've worked with plenty of kids, nonverbal kids, who have high levels of stereotypy, and we do teach them you can do it in the bathroom. If you want to hand flap, no problem, go in the bathroom. So when you're in the bathroom by yourself with the door shut, hand flap in the mirror. Why not? It's not hurting anybody, right? But when you're outside playing with your friends, it's not appropriate.
Right.
And even if the child can't understand that verbal description, just be consistent.
Right.
Put them in the bathroom, shut the door, let them hand flap. They learn real quickly. The consequence for hand flapping in the bathroom, no problem, right?
Yeah.
And then when they're outside playing with friends, if they start to flap their hands, then you physically block it or redirect them to a different activity.
I have to say, you've reminded me of advice that you gave the last time that we were here on the show, that I was talking about my son saying, I seen it, instead of saying, I saw it or I've seen it, and how it was driving me crazy because one of you had written in and said that your child was having some issues with that, and I said, oh, can I so relate? And you had said... you were it was very sweet, and you said, well, you know, whatever you're doing, how's it working for you? Right? and I said, oh, right, there is that. And so you suggested not trying to teach it in the moment.
Right.
Setting
then
up,
that comes off as nagging, basically, right? Yeah.
Which we know I'm good at.
All parents are good at nagging.
I have a PhD in nagging. But in any case, you suggested taking a time, and help me if I'm getting it wrong, because this is what I did, taking a time totally removed from when we're doing anything else and going over, you know, what the rules are and giving him an opportunity to practice it within that. And so I started doing it in the car, that I would say to him, he wanted something. He was asking me for something, and I said, I'll make a deal with you. Let's do something. And I told him, I went over the rule and said, so now we're going to have a conversation for 5 minutes, and we're going to see how many times you can get it right. And if you get it right, X, I don't even remember how many times I said the first time, if you can get it right this many times, then I'm going to let you play with the iPad, because that was what he wanted. And he said, oh, okay, let's do that. And I'd gone over the rule again, and over and over and over again, he was saying, oh, I saw it, or I've seen it. And each time he would do it, I was going, yes, and I was counting them off in the car as I was driving, and he got the iPad. And then, you know, we left, and we were on this trip, and there were so many other things going on. But I noticed that he started saying, I saw it.
Really?
He just automatically started doing it after, I think I did it twice in the car with him.
That's fairly unusual. Usually it takes more practice across multiple different settings with multiple people to get generalization like that. That's pretty nice.
But it, you know, it wasn't like it happened a bunch of times, but I noticed that there were, you know, times and he said it. And then we've come back, and then in the last couple of days, I've seen him slip back into, so I know what I have to do now.
You know exactly what to do.
But it was working.
Right.
And unfortunately, you know, because it's in my DNA, when something's working, I go, good, we don't have to work on it anymore.
Right.
You know, but obviously that isn't, that's not the ticket.
Right.
But I see a light at the end of the tunnel. Now we just have to work on the swearing.
All right, there you go.
And I keep thinking, oh my gosh, this is all my fault, because my child is really fascinated by swearing right now. If somebody,
it's that age too.
If somebody swears, like somebody can say a swear word across a crowded room, and his little swear antenna goes up. And
I heard that.
Did they say what I thought they said? He's just all about that. We go to a movie, and somebody swears, and he's like, did they say what I? You know, if we're watching a movie, he goes, rewind. I think they did they say the S word? And
especially for boys too, at that age, that's what they're interested in. And you know they're all saying it to each other on the playground when no one's looking, you know.
And I'm trying to stay calm about it and not take the whole thing on myself, because I have been known to swear like a Russian sailor when I'm not here. But I understand where it's appropriate and where it's not appropriate.
Right.
Unfortunately, though, my child heard a lot of it before I realized that he had more receptive language than expressive language.
Well, but look, no 9 and 10-year-olds really know where it's appropriate and not appropriate. They're testing. They're learning. Is that the truth? They want the maximum amount of swearing they can get away with without getting punished. I mean, that's what it means to be a boy in our culture.
Yes.
That's everything. That's TV, movies, video games, playgrounds. I mean, everyone is like that. So it's like a losing battle that we're fighting as parents, you know. But.
Well, and I must say, we watched 2 movies recently where they had 10-year-old boys in them, and every 5 seconds the 10-year-old boys were saying a swear word, and somebody was saying, don't say that. And my husband said, you know, I do think it's a 10-year-old thing. And I have a memory of being a 10-year-old little girl, and that we were visiting relatives, and their relatives kept sticking us in this one playroom where all the cousins would play cards, and we referred to it as the swear room because there were no adults and we could swear as much as we wanted. And I don't even think I was 10. I think I might have been 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So I do think that there is a certain amount of it that they have to try on, and I
was the same way. When
Really?
I remember very clearly that age just being so enthralled by swear words because they're powerful, right? They're rich. I mean, they have power. That's why people don't use them very much. So you can't blame kids of that age for being fascinated. I mean, my dad, he had a pretty strict rule of no swear words unless you're in the mountains, and it's only the boys. And then you can swear as much as you want.
So there was the swear word. There's the swear room.
The swear room, yeah. So we'd be driving in his pickup truck up the mountain highway, and as soon as we passed the sign that said "Welcome to the National Forest" or whatever, I just let loose with a litany of swear words, and I could get away with it, and I wouldn't get in trouble. And again, it's like stimulus control. It's like, here's the environment where you can do the behavior, no bad consequence.
Right.
Here are the rest of the environments where, look, you can't do it.
Right. And so, at what age did you understand? Okay, I can't swear until we pass the sign.
I can't remember the exact age, but I think it was right around there. It wasn't earlier, I don't think.
Okay. And we have had the talk where I've said, look, I know that you've heard mommy swear. I know you hear other people swear. You hear people in movies swear. But you're not allowed to swear at your age in public,
Which is weird, because think about how much in ABA we teach imitation, right? We teach observational learning, right? We teach these kids, pay attention to what's happening in your environment. Look at someone who's successful and think about that and maybe imitate them, right? So of course he's going to look at adults and want to be like them, whether it's swearing or anything else. It's and it's not just you, it's movies, it's everything.
Yes, but I do feel like a bad parent when it happens. It's true.
Well, that won't help you fix it.
Right, exactly. But it is that thing where occasionally you think, oh, they're going to come and take my parenting license away from me. In any case, we should take a short break, but we're going to come back and have Dr. Tarbox answer some more of your questions. And we've got space if people want to write in this moment in time on the live feature. We can take a question or two. So stick with us. More after these messages.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mands, tacks, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. In the studio with us right now is the wonderful Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. He's the head of research and development for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. He is the director of the Autism Research Group, and he is a regular here on the show. He talks with us about research and answers parents' questions. We had a question that came in that really I found very interesting. The person wrote in and said, my mother is starting with early Alzheimer's.
Okay.
I find a correlation with autism as they both, my child and my mom, seem to forget things, and a simple reminder gets them back on track. I would love to know, is there any ABA technique we could use to avoid my mom forgetting where she places things, and this leading to blaming other members of the family for stealing? Please, any advice is appreciated, and thank you. Because we talk about that on the show all the time, the fact that ABA was not invented for autism,
right,
and it's not the only thing that it helps with.
Right.
So I bless this woman's heart, because you got a mom who is starting to descend into Alzheimer's and a child on the autism spectrum, and that could be a heavy burden in both cases.
Challenges,
but I love the fact that you're using your head and thinking, okay, wait a minute, if this one technique is working with autism, is it possible that there's something that could help us? And citing a very particular instance of that she forgets where she put something and thinks that somebody in the family might have stolen it. I will attest to the fact that if I lay something down and I walk away and I come back and it's not there, I'm like, who took my, who moved my cheese, right? That's the name of that book that we all read in the 90s. Who moved my cheese? And frequently, because I'm at an age where hopefully I'm not descending into Alzheimer's, it's me who moved it. But my go-to is, okay, I know I put it here where, and so here is her mom forgetting where she put something and thinking that somebody stole it. So what do you have?
Well, okay, first of all, I have to give the disclaimer, I'm not an expert in Alzheimer's by any means, or dementia. It's not my area of expertise. I'm an expert in autism and ABA, but not the application of ABA to Alzheimer's.
Okay.
So there are folks who are experts specifically in that. So there are people in the ABA world that figure out how to apply principles and procedures of ABA to improving the quality of life for people who have Alzheimer's and dementia. And so they do a variety of things, including decreasing challenging behaviors. Sometimes you see aggression and outbursts, things like that. But especially and most importantly, things like this, working on memory, sort of planning, organization, preventing things like wandering or running away behaviors. And so there are folks out there who are doing some of this work.
But now how would you even begin to go about finding the BCBA who works with Alzheimer's?
Well, they can email me. Well, they can email you, give it to me, and I can put them in touch with somebody.
Okay, great.
More than likely it's a researcher who may or may not actually be doing any clinical work, but they can at least forward relevant information to this woman. One thing, I can answer the question generally, and that is memory. Well, actually, one more bit about research is there actually is a good bit of research showing that folks on the autism spectrum have a tough time with so-called frontal lobe or executive function type activities, things like memory, planning, self-control, self-awareness, inhibition, working memory. And all of those same functions are also some of the first to go in folks with Alzheimer's. So there's some definite overlap there, and I don't think anyone has any clue why that is. But in terms of functioning and skills, there is definitely some overlap. Now, in ABA, we treat executive functions just like we treat any other skill, and that is we treat it as a behavior that can be taught and learned, right? So what I would recommend in general is if anything that your son or your mom is having a tough time with is set aside specific time to work on that and do lots of practice, make it positive, lots of reinforcement. give lots of help at first and then fade out the help. So literally practice putting stuff somewhere and then finding it 1 minute later. That should be easy enough, right?
Yeah.
Then maybe 2 minutes later. Then maybe 10 minutes, eventually working up. It probably will help. I mean, there is some research to show folks with brain injury and or Alzheimer's and dementia, their functioning level and their skills can be improved. The problem is you are sort of fighting a losing battle in the sense that those disorders are degenerative, and it is going to be more difficult with time. And as far as I know, there's no way to avoid that reality. That is a reality. But you might be able to mitigate how fast the skills are lost through lots of practice and lots of positive reinforcement. But the number one thing is keep it positive, make it fun. If your mom doesn't want to do it, don't make her do it, right? You have to figure out a way to make it fun. So that's why people do things like crossword puzzles, right? So you build in memory practice, build it into something that's actually fun.
Right. Interesting. So very interesting. And you know, I remember when Jem descended into autism, comparing it to my dad had a stroke at a very young age and had expressive aphasia and, you know, really lost his speech and had to relearn his speech, and what a devastating thing that was for him and what a devastating thing it was for our family. And I remember as we were starting to reteach Jem language, thinking, okay, this reminds me of this other event in our life. And I certainly have had many family members with Alzheimer's, and it's a different sort of thing, because the hope with autism is that you're going to see progress and you're going to see it on a pretty, you know, a straight trajectory, or else you got to change up some things. But as you point out,
it's not a hope; it's a guarantee with autism that if you've got your teaching procedures correct, you will make progress. Right? We don't know what the upper limit of that progress is with any given individual, but you will make progress.
But unfortunately, as you mentioned, with Alzheimer's, you know, you are fighting the losing battle. That eventually, you know, you're not going to be able to see the progress, and so there's an emotional component to that. So bless your heart, and feel free to write in and give us your email address so that if you want to talk to an expert who's doing ABA with Alzheimer's. I would like to say that I tend to go on the BACB.com site a lot now. If a parent comes in and asks a question and says, hey, I'd like to be hooked up with people, one of the first things that I do is go and look in their exact town and see if there's any BCBAs there. But one of the most frustrating things about their site for me that I would love to see them, if you know somebody, you know, that I'd love to see them change, is that you go there and there are a plethora of BCBAs, but it doesn't let you know what their area is.
Right, their area of specialization.
And that would be a lovely thing to be able to search.
Yeah. I think that the BACB website is considered more sort of a membership directory, not sort of a user forum type thing. You know what I mean? It's not a professional association site. It's just a list of who has this certification. So they probably are intentionally avoiding doing that. Because, for example, what if someone says, yeah, I have autism experience? Okay, great. You put autism on there, and now a consumer is going to go get services from them, but what if they've never met a kid with autism? How is the BACB really going to regulate that? They don't have a way of measuring that or certifying that.
I see what you're saying.
They probably want to avoid that, you know. But,
well, then we go back to, you know, there are support groups for autism, and the thing that I recommend to people is that, you know, so you've got this list of BCBAs, call them, and then go to your parent support group and say, does anybody know who's good? And talk to a lot of different people. And I know that there are support groups for Alzheimer's as well, that it might be interesting to go on to one of them and say, does anybody know a BCBA who, you know, in the area who works with Alzheimer's?
The community of people within ABA that are working with elder care issues is so small that there's no way they're going to randomly connect with one of those people. But if they contact me, I know some of them, and I can at least, you know, I don't know if they're the right people to talk to, but they would definitely know who the right people to know. So there's a way to get her to the right people.
Fabulous. Okay, we're going to take another break and come back and have Dr. Tarbox answer some more of your questions, so stick with us.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet. Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism, and now you get to ask her questions every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome back to Autism In the studio with us right now is Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. He is the head of research and development here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and also the director of the Autism Research Group. A great mind, and you come and share with us things about research, but also answer parent questions. And so we've got a parent question here. My grandson is 3, and when we are out in the grocery shopping, he keeps putting everything back on the shelves, saying we don't need them. And if we say he takes a fit, and his mom and I have to leave the stuff there and go. You know, it's interesting because we hear a lot of kids having issues at the grocery store for one reason or the other, and sometimes it's an inflexibility thing. A very interesting thing that he says we don't need it. And then if they say they do, he has a tantrum, and they end up having to leave the stuff and go. Yeah. Okay, so my first thing is that I'm thinking, well, he's getting what he wants. Right. Because if he wanted you to leave it and you left it.
Yeah, and you know, the grocery store really is the classic example that we always use in ABA of challenges with parenting kids with challenging behavior, because you just can't do what you need to do at the grocery store, right? Basically, the kid always gets what he wants at the grocery store unless you're willing to let them scream it out in public, right? And so if the kid if the kid sees a candy bar, has a tantrum, and will only stop tantruming if you give him the candy bar, or if you just leave the store, then you have you have 3 choices. Right. Leave the store, which is not a very good choice if you need to buy groceries, right? Right. Give him the candy bar, which is not a very good choice because you want him to learn to not tantrum, right?
And you're going to be right back there next week.
Right, exactly. Or let the kid scream, right, until he's done screaming, and you still get your groceries, but then you feel humiliated and you're worried about who's staring at me and thinking I'm a bad parent. Some parents even get comments, right, like you should be able to control your children, that kind of thing, right? Oh, yeah. So, you know, it's a really tough situation to be in. It's the classic situation where basically your kid has got you, right? Yeah. Like there's not much you can do about it. So I would say before you get in that situation, you need to decide which one of those 3 roads you're going to take. Okay. Give the kid what he wants, and teach him to have that tantrum again in the future if you do that. Just let him have the tantrum. Don't give him what he wants, right? Or leave the store. Right. In this case, it's kind of a double whammy because what he wants is to have the items placed back on the shelf, which, fine, it gets him to stop tantruming, but it also prevents her from buying the groceries because those are the items she needs to buy. So it's really a challenge.
And if she leaves... If she says, okay, we're just going to leave, she didn't get the groceries, which means he got the paycheck. Right, yeah. So really, the best thing you could possibly do if you want him to stop doing that behavior in the future is, sorry, we're going to buy it anyways, and you just put it in the cart and keep going, and he has a tantrum, and you feel embarrassed, and you buy the food and leave. Right. If that's possible... you probably won't have to do that too many times before your son learns, okay, they're not going to just put it back on the shelf. I can't get my way. Yeah. If you want to make it a little bit easier on yourself, one thing you could do is bring something that your kid likes to keep him busy, some kind of preferred item or toy to play with or look at while you're shopping, basically just to distract him from wanting you to put the items back on the shelf. You could teach him to ask nicely, but it sounds like he already is asking, so that's not really the issue. Yeah. So it's a tough one. You know, I actually have seen this quite a bit. I've seen kids who, for whatever reason, need to have things in their proper place. So anytime something gets taken out of where it belongs, it needs to go right back immediately. And so it could be something like that, right? Yeah. It could be that he just genuinely doesn't want those items in the house. He doesn't think they need that food. That's possible. Or that money is being spent and he's got some sort of fear tied to it.
Possible, too. But
Jeff's gone through a phase recently where if I go and buy a bunch of things, he goes, you know, you're going to spend all of our money. We're not going to have any money. You're spending a fortune. What are you doing? And you know, and I go, oh yeah, what am I doing? No, these are groceries. We need these. What are you talking about?
But that's kind of cool that he's even thinking about that. I mean, that shows a pretty high level of thinking and budgeting, reasoning.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of anxiety with it.
Sure, I know, but it's...
but yes, no, he
in this case, though, the kid's 3, so he's probably not doing all of that reasoning yet, I don't think, about money. But really, my general advice here is, at the end of the day, he's going to keep doing it if he gets the consequence that he wants, which is put the items back on the shelf.
I love, though, this idea of making the decision before you walk into the store.
That's
if there's a tantrum, which one of these three things am I going to do?
Be proactive, make up your mind, and stick with it.
Because we always talk about don't give in. Whatever happens, don't give in, but let's be real here. There are times when, in the moment, you go, I can't. I have to be able to grocery shop, and I have to get this, but do it mindfully and say, if something happens in this moment in time, I am going to give in, which means that I'm going to deal with it next week, but I'm going to schedule time to deal with it.
That's right.
And I know I'm making it worse for next week, but let's face it, there are, I can remember the story of the mom who was trying to get the kids in the car seat and was standing there in her pantyhose because she was trying to take the kids to daycare so that she could go and apply for the job. She had an interview, which was going to make it possible to keep a roof over their heads, right? And she was like, when the tantrum happened, she was, everything and its brother was coming out of her purse and give him whatever, because we set our priorities. But at least be mindful of it in that moment. But yeah, go ahead.
I thought of a little tip, and I'm not sure if the kid's verbal enough to understand this rule or if it's applicable, but you might consider saying something like this: you can put 3 things back on the shelf. After that, mommy's the boss. Okay? So you pick whatever 3 things, you can put it back on the shelf. Just make sure you get enough groceries to where if those 3 things get put back, if any 3 things get put back, you're still okay. Or even you could put back the first 3 things that we get, and obviously the first 3 things that you get are not going to be things you really need, right?
There you go.
You could even give him coupons. Each coupon he can spend to put something back on the shelf.
Okay.
Kind of like the get out of bed pass.
Yes.
The good night. Yeah. So those are some ideas to still give the kid a little bit of what he wants, only when he's having good behavior and under some kind of rule. But at the end of the day, mommy and daddy are still the boss, and 3-year-olds don't get to dictate what groceries get bought.
These are the kind of things when our kids are verbal enough that later on are fascinating to talk about and go and say, so what was that about? And a lot of times we see now, I see this with my own child, that they go, oh, well, this. And it makes total sense. Once they are able to verbalize it later on. So, but knowing ahead of time, I've talked about 2 different grocery store experiences for myself. The one where we would go in the same grocery store, and every time he would throw a bigger fit in the same area of the grocery store, and I could not figure it out. No way, no how. But I remember not giving in to it once, that I made the decision we're not going to give in, and it was the most horrifying experience. I thought I wasn't going to make it through it, and literally dragging him in the cart up to pay for the groceries and using my knee to hold him in one place as I was trying to pay the people, and people were saying stuff to me. And then I said enough is enough, and had a BCBA come and look, and we discovered that it was the floor tile changed right where he was having, and I hadn't really acknowledged.
So what did you do about it? Did you go around a different way, or?
No, they very slowly desensitized him to floor tile change, and I hadn't noticed that he was doing it like when we were at Disneyland and going from floor tile, he wouldn't walk there. I just hadn't paid attention to that because so much else was happening. So there was that, and then another instance, which you were called in to work with us. You probably don't remember because you've helped so many kids, but I was being punched in the head, and one of the things that was happening was that we were at a grocery store, and it was right around his birthday, and he loved to look at the birthday cakes in the store. Never ate any of those birthday cakes, right? But for him, it was a big deal to have the birthday cake at his party because all the kids looked at it, and it was a status thing to him. And he always wanted, we would get into the store, and he would point and, when he could say, birthday cake, he wanted to go and look at them. And if I had grocery shopping to do, he would punch me in the head until I would go over to the birthday cakes.
Wow, that's intense.
And then the punching in the head was happening in other places. So I couldn't get any grocery shopping done. And even if I said, we're going to go look at the birthday cakes first, and then mommy's going to do her shopping, if we went away, punching in the head. And so we ended up calling in, SOS services, and Dr. Tarbox and Art Wilkie came to our clinic and helped us to work through some of the things. And, the advice that I was given was that we were going to go, I had to set a specific time to go to the grocery store, and we were not going to look at the birthday cakes. And if he started to tantrum, we were going to leave. And that was going to be it. And that I needed to have done all the grocery shopping before.
Right. That's a really good, it's a great point.
So that I was going to the grocery store only to work on this. And if I happened to get through the grocery store experience,
good for you.
I could buy 3 things and it didn't matter, but I didn't need them. And that I was doing my grocery shopping at night when my husband was home, but I was going to the grocery store on a daily basis with my son to sort of work through this. And that was the big shift in my head. And I also needed help because the first time he tantrumed like a crazy thing, and I was trying to get him in the 5-point harness, and he's hitting me in the head as I'm trying to, and so you guys consulted with my husband and I about how I was going to grow octopus arms so that I could get him in the car seat without being pummeled in the head. And that was the conversation that I've talked before on the show, that I got so upset and flustered in the meeting and yelled at Art Wilkie. Art Wilkie is the sweetest man on the face of the earth. And I said, "Where is my purse in this scenario, Art?"
That's great.
And,
I love that story.
and Art, bless his heart, said, "Well, maybe you need to carry a fanny pack for a couple of weeks till we get this under control." Bless Art's heart.
Well, okay, how about that?
And then I went,
Simple
"Oh,
solution.
okay." I think I was so underslept at that point that would never have occurred to me.
Right.
It would never have occurred to me. So, it is, I throw that out there because it's essential that we don't do these things alone, that you can get help. I get the grocery store thing because those were traumatic.
I have one more thought on the grocery store thing, if we have time.
Yes,
Do we have
yes.
time?
We have 2 minutes, and Emily's going to start to show some of the ways you can get in touch with us, but tell.
Okay, so when you're dealing with your kid's challenging behavior in public, and you know he's going to have a tantrum, and you know the right thing to do is to not give in. The reason why we don't do that as parents is because we're afraid of how other people are going to think of us, right, and judge us, and maybe even act externally, right? So what we're doing is trying to avoid something negative, right? That's going to happen right away. That's going to make us feel awful, right? Another way to think about it, maybe just this is a thought to just sort of try on for size, is what if that's part of your life right now? Is that other people are going to dislike you, and other people are going to think you're a bad parent, and other people are going to tell you you're a bad parent while you're being a good parent. What if that is just something that's going to happen now temporarily, and the end result is your kid is going to learn how to behave better, and you will be able to go to that same grocery store the next week or the next month without that behavior. What matters more? What's worth it? Maybe it's worth it to feel horribly ashamed and embarrassed. Maybe it's worth it to feel like you have ants crawling all over you because you're so embarrassed if the outcome is X, Y, and Z.
I do think that that's key, and I think that, you guys sort of helped me to see that then as well, and that I realized, I have friends who say other people's opinions of me are none of my business. It's just a great, and I was reminded that what I was doing was something that was more important than whatever their judgment of me was.
That's right.
And I do think that that's a great way for us to end the week, to remember that other people's opinions of us are none of our business, and that this is a higher calling. To be a parent of a child on the autism spectrum, and sometimes our dress is going to get dirty. But, that's what happens. Okay, so we're going to be back on Monday. We thank Dr. Tarbox for being here with us.
It's great to be here.
We'll be back on Monday with more shows, some really exciting stuff next week, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Keep an eye on Facebook over the weekend, because we're going to keep you updated on the situation with the comment from the teacher, and more information. And until next week, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.